The tragic true story of the Teletubbies. For many years, millions of children around the world have enjoyed watching Tinker Winker, Dipsy, Laa-Laa, and Pooh with the golden sun holding the face of a laughing child. Each of the Teletubbies has a special personality to help him explore the world, and use some symbols to teach children, such as Tinky Winky's handbag, which is bigger on the inside than the outside, so he can learn about size, or the Laa-Laa ball, which reflects children's fascination with balls. Children are so fascinated by these characters that all products bearing the image of the Teletubbies characters, such as children's clothes and dolls, have achieved the highest sales in the world. The sun that shone upon the land of the Teletubbies, laughing constantly at their work, was the face of Jane Smith, who was just 19 when she became the most recognizable face on British television as Sunbaby in the series. The Teletubbies lived on a farm called Laa-Laa Land, which is a wonderful place that children love. This is what it seems from the program, but it seems that the truth is not so, because the real story of the Teletubbies may destroy the beautiful childhood memories of many. The real Laa-Laa Land was an institute for the detention of the mentally handicapped in Bulgaria, and the real name of this place is not known until today, and the real story happened in 1995 AD, but there a group of children were locked up in a large, dark, and cold room without any care, and the only time in the day they were visited by the caretaker. The harsh caregivers who worked at the institute often beat them instead of giving them food. And the characters of the Teletubbies series are based on a group of children who were present in this infamous place and all died on the same day in horrific circumstances. And one of those children, Laa-Laa, whose name means a lavender flower, was suffering from a deformity in her face, which made it taut all the time, so she seemed to be always smiling, and this basically did not pose any kind of problem as she could act like a normal child. But nevertheless she was locked in that room. She was so horrible for 5 years, which was her life, and it caused her to lose her mind completely, and she danced about her room without music, and she could not say a word in Bulgarian, but only muttered strange, incomprehensible words. She had spent her whole life inside the room and her skin turned yellow because of the lack of sunlight. Yet the poor woman always smiled, even when she was being abused. Her smile was involuntary even when the people entrusted with her care broke her legs so that she could not dance, and even when they tied her in her bed for a long time she was smiling and muttering her incomprehensible words. And one of the other children was Tootie, a little boy who was only 7 at the time, and who, like the other children, spent endless days locked in a room where he had nothing to do. The child, Paulina, was the youngest child among the 4 who died that day. She was only 3 years old when, and perhaps her story is the most tragic. And one day in a cold winter, Paulina made a simple mistake, which is that she fell asleep near the warehouse where the logs are kept that are used to warm the home caregivers, who never noticed that there was a human child of flesh and blood, so they drunkenly threw her into the heating fire. So the child woke up feeling the flames burning her body. She screamed and the supervisors at the institute withdrew her, but she was already severely burned and yet lived to her death with her 3 other brothers, being the inspiration for the character of Bo. If you find this part of the story disturbing, you should probably stop reading, for you will now know why they are called the Teletubbies. For as you can see in this gloomy existence, there was nothing illuminating the pitch darkness in which they lived, except televisions that were constantly on in the institute as a means of attracting the attention of the children who lived inside, and they were obsessed with it, until something happened that made the 4 children panic as they heard the manager of the house talking about the high cost of electricity because of this TV, and that he would get rid of it. The 4 children thought with their innocent minds that they should steal the televisions and hide them before they took them away, and because all the children were sleeping in one room with no windows but a high window and nowhere to hide, so after they carried the televisions they did not know what to do next. The children looked at each other in fear, and an idea occurred to them. The children in the center used to swallow some small toys to hide them in their stomachs away from the officials who would deprive them of them. But the TVs are big, so what do? In the morning when the overseers came in to wake the children up, as usual all the children were in their beds, except 4 children. They found them in the middle of the room, their bellies completely ripped open and blood everywhere, and the children's hands and nails still had bits of flesh from their bellies being ripped open. Immediately, the caretakers fled from the place, and the Bulgarian police tried to hide the news of the accident, and only a few people remained aware of the terrible accident, including a woman named Wood, who decided to compose the story of Teletubbies to make them live together in a magical place, laughing, playing, and being happy away from the center. Care, without having to hide televisions in their stomachs.